Happy Sunday. Happy Father's Day. Literary Archaeology Day. Today we dig into the past through literature and try to rediscover who we are and where we came from. And it's funny because the Grimm brothers who wrote these fairy tales were doing just the same thing over 200 years ago, 1812 and 1815. We're going in order of the book. We're in the 1815 section. We had to go back that far because they started changing them right away. Can't have these morals and Christian ethics in our society. They tried to change it and try to make it woke in one way or another since over 200 years ago. Most people don't realize that. I skipped a story. We're going in order because we're really supposed to read The Raven this week. I don't think it is any relation to Edgar Allan Poe, but we'll find out. And one of you will tell me in the chat. So we skipped to The Clever Farmer's Daughter because it's Father's Day, so it just makes the most sense. Now, it's a fairy tale, and if you've been with us other Sundays, you will know that just because that's the title does not mean that's where we're going. We never know where we're going or what kind of morals and lessons we're going to be taught. But we are usually taught the nature of both men and women and the roles. And it's pretty eye-opening when you look at all the things that, say, the media and movies and everything want to fight against or be different than this. Explains how society is what it is. All right, you guys, Clever Farmer's Daughter. Once upon a time, there was a poor farmer who had only a small house and one daughter, but no land. One day, the daughter said, "I think we should ask the king for a little piece of farming land." I shouldn't go ahead and comment about the way she looks at things. Like, we should just ask. He should just give it to us. I don't know. Is that a girl thing? Maybe I critique too much. When the king learned about their poverty, he gave them a small field, which the farmer and his daughter cleared so they could sow a little wheat and plant some kind of fruit. After they had almost finished their work, they found a mortar of pure gold on the ground. "Listen," said the farmer to his daughter, "since the king was so gracious to give us this field, we ought to give him this mortar in return." But the daughter didn't agree. Of course not. Okay, but the daughter didn't agree and said, "Father, if we give the mortar without the pestle, then we'll have to find the pestle as well. I think we'd be better off if we kept quiet about the whole thing." Of course, what's a pestle? Pestle. You guys will tell me in the chat. Gosh, I thought I had a good vocabulary until I started reading these. However, the farmer didn't listen to her. He took the mortar, carried it to the king, and said that he had found it on the heath. Now he wanted to offer it to the king in his honor. The king took the mortar and asked the farmer if he had found anything else. "No," replied the farmer. Then the king asked him about the pestle and told him to bring it to him. The farmer replied that they hadn't found the pestle, but that was like talking to the wind. He was thrown into prison where he was to stay until he produced the pestle. The servants brought him bread and water every day, the usual fare in prison, and every day they heard the farmer sighing, "Oh, if only I had listened to my daughter. Oh, if only I had listened to my daughter." You know, the wife's role is to give, gentle counsel. It's up to the husband whether he employs that, integrates that, however. But we do have a good sense about people in a way that's different from men. I found this to be true whenever I have spoken to, family members, male friends. And it's good that this is celebrated in this spot, because I know a lot of people think that I'm so anti-woman and I'm misogynist and all those things, and I'm not. I'm actually the opposite. And this is a great example of one of the things that we're very good at. And it's just completely going to waste and being channeled into things that are negative. So I'm happy that it's highlighted here. But you never know where the fairy tale is going to go. So I could be wrong about what this means. If only I'd listened to my daughter. Finally, the servants went to the king and told him how the prisoner kept crying, "Oh, if only I had listened to my daughter," and how he refused to eat or drink. The king ordered the servants to bring the prisoner before him, and he asked the farmer to tell him why he kept saying, "Oh, if only I'd listened to my daughter." "What did your daughter tell you?" "Well, she told me not to bring you the mortar, otherwise I'd have to bring you the pestle as well." "If you have such a clever daughter, I want to see her." So she had to appear before the king, who asked her if she really was so clever, and said that he wanted to give her a riddle to solve, and that if she solved it, he would marry her. See, the king here appreciates that the daughter is very clever. And what are we told in all these TikToks and what I was told in magazines back in the day, not to date myself, but men are just intimidated if you're smart. Men don't want a smart woman, blah, blah, blah. Baloney. That's baloney. They'd like to have an intelligent conversation once in a while. Now, does that mean educated, in college, have diplomas? Not necessarily. I am a proud college dropout. You don't have to have those degrees to be educated, and in a lot of ways, it harms your ability to critically think. So this lady's very clever, and the king is interested in her because of that. She replied right away and said she would solve it. Then the king said, "Come to me." Okay. Then the king said, "Come to me, not dressed, not naked, not on a horse, not by carriage, not on the road, not off the road, and if you do, I'll marry you." I thought he was going to say without clothes. Sorry, I freaked out. I clutched my pearls. Okay, so here's the riddle, you guys. Ready? Let's see if you can solve it in the chat. Come to me, not dressed, not naked, not on horse, not by carriage, not on the road, not off the road, and if you do, I'll marry you. Okay. The farmer's daughter went home and got undressed until she was completely naked, so that she was not dressed. Next, she took a large fishnet. Naughty. She took a large fishnet and wrapped it completely around her so that she was not naked. Then she took some money, leased a donkey, and tied the fishnet to its tail. The donkey had to drag her along so that she neither rode nor drove. And since the donkey had to drag her along the wagon tracks, only her big toes could touch the ground so that she was neither on the road nor off of it. I didn't think it was going to be a riddle like this. Thus, when she appeared before the king this way, he said she had solved the riddle and had fulfilled all the conditions. He released her father from the prison, took her as his wife, and ordered her to look after all the royal possessions. Yeah. Okay. Let's see how that goes. Now, some years went by, and one day, when the king was out reviewing his troops, a group of farmers happened to stop in front of his castle. They had been selling wood, and some of the wagons were drawn by horses, others by oxen. One of the farmers had 3 horses, and his mare gave birth to a foal that ran away and lay down between 2 oxen hitched to another farmer's wagon. When the 2 farmers came together, they started bickering, throwing things at each other, and making a lot of noise. The farmer with the oxen wanted to keep the foal and claimed that the oxen had given birth to it. Okay. The other said no, his horse had given birth to it, and the foal was his. The quarrel was taken before the king, and he declared that wherever the foal had laid itself down, there it should stay. No. So the farmer with the oxen got the foal, even though it didn't belong to him. The other farmer went away, wept, and grieved over his foal. However, since he had heard that the queen came from a poor farmer's family and was compassionate, he went to her and asked whether she could help him get his foal back. Yes, she said, but you must promise not to tell that I helped you. Oh, she's going behind the king's back. We'll see how this goes. Now, here's what you have to do. Early morning tomorrow, when the king goes out to review his guard, you're to place yourself in the middle of the road where he has to pass. Bring a large fish net with you and pretend to fish with it. You're to keep fishing and shaking the net out as though it were full. Hello, little Lola. She's come to request pepperoni, no doubt. Excuse me. Okay, so he's supposed to be fishing in the middle of the road. Then the queen also told him what to answer the king when he questioned him. The next day, the farmer got up and went fishing on dry land. When the king rode by and saw that, he sent his messenger to ask the foolish man what he was doing. I'm fishing, he replied. When the messenger asked how he could fish without water, the farmer answered, if 2 oxen can manage to give birth to a foal, then I can manage to catch a fish on dry land. The messenger brought the farmer's answer back to the king, who summoned the farmer and said he knew that the farmer had not thought up the answer himself. The king wanted to know who had helped him with the answer, and he'd better confess right away. But the farmer refused to talk and kept repeating, may God help him if he hadn't thought up the answer himself. So they laid him down on a bundle of straw, beat and tortured him until he confessed that the queen had given him the idea. When the king returned home, he said to his wife, why did you dupe me? I no longer want you for my wife. Your time is up. Go back to the farmhouse where you came from. So she betrayed him, basically lied to him by going behind his back like that. And what did he do? Because that is not acceptable for his wife to do that. Send her back to daddy. It used to be a thing. Like, this one's malfunctioning. Send it back to the manufacturer. I bet a lot of you guys would have liked that option at some point in time. So he sends her back to dad. Oh my goodness. I thought that was so funny that I lost my spot. Okay. However, he granted her one last request. She could take the dearest and best thing that she could think of with her, and that was to be her parting gift. Very well, dear husband, she said. Your wish is my command. Then she embraced him, kissed him, and asked him to drink to her departure. She's awful positive about all this. He agreed, and she ordered a strong sleeping potion before saying farewell. The king took a big swig, but she only drank a little. Soon he fell into a deep sleep, and when she saw that, she called a servant, took a beautiful white linen sheet, and wrapped him in it. Other servants had to carry the king outside and put him into a carriage. Then she drove him to her house and put him to bed. He slept a whole day and night, and when he woke up, he looked around him and said, "My God, where am I?" He called his servants, but nobody was there. Finally, his wife came to the bed and said, "Dear king, you ordered me to take the dearest and best thing with me from the castle. Since you are the dearest and best thing I know, I took you with me." "Dear wife," the king replied, "you shall be mine, and I shall be yours forever." Then he took her back with him to the royal castle and married her again. And I am sure that they are still living together even today. The weird thing is, I don't know, I think this is weird. You guys tell me, that when I was reading this and he said, "You can take the dearest thing with you," in my mind, I knew, like, my first thought was, take him. You can't lose. Take him with you. And I don't know if that's like because I have a female brain. I thought that. So I want to know what you guys think. If you guys think like that was sort of an obvious thing, or is that how our minds work? And she is very clever. But I think there's a slight warning, because that could have gone very wrong for him. I think you better make sure that if you have a clever woman, that she also has good character. I don't think it was the best thing to go behind his back. I don't think that was good at all. None of us are perfect. Did she choose him to go? I know what you guys are going to say. Did she choose, like, "I'll take you. You're the nearest and you're the dearest thing to me"? Was that because that was true, or because she wanted to retain her position, her status, and her wealth? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure, because she had the option. Are you going to go back to your dad and live in poverty, or figure out a way to stay in the castle? And she was clever, so she did. I think it's a warning. I think there are multi layers to it. It's like, yes, men would like a clever. They appreciate that. However, you don't want it used against you. So be careful. Be careful with it. It can go both ways. It can go both ways. She can undermine you and change your decision about the foal. And she can also, help with other things. Like, I just don't, you guys have taught me to question whether that was loyalty or not. However, we've seen in the other fairy tales that a lot of times they will show that the woman was very loyal and celebrate that at the end. So perhaps that's what this is. The people who wrote these fairy tales, they are teaching us lessons, but they're not jaded in the way that a lot of us are. So I think it might be that in the end she was loyal, that her cleverness, although could be a little bit dangerous and tricky, in the end she used it to be loyal to him and stay with him and fix their relationship. Either way you want to go. All right, guess what? We've got time for another one. Let me figure out what we have time for. I couldn't not read you two on Father's Day, which we should just call Patriarch's Day. I am sure the women would love it. It's called Patriarch's Day. Hail the patriarchy. Okay. The next one's called The Genie in the Glass. A man paid for his son to study, and after the boy had successfully attended a few schools, the father couldn't support him anymore. So he told him to come home and said, "You know that I've run out of money. I can't give you anything anymore." "Dear father," said the son, "don't worry. If that's the way it is, I'll stay and travel with you and earn some money from carpentry." Indeed, the father was a day laborer, earned his living as a carpenter. "My son," the father said, "that will be difficult for you to do because I only have one axe and can't buy one for you." "Well," the son answered, "go to your neighbor and ask him to lend you one." So the father borrowed an axe for his son, and they went into the forest to work. After they had worked until noon, the father said, "Oh, it's another father one." I guess we have some of those, but this is particularly, I tell you what, I know that these are like almost in order of how we're reading them, but I just don't believe in coincidences. I don't. And I know that what we have, the community that we've all built here, is very special and blessed. And so I'm choosing to believe that these fairy tales are meant to be read today. So the father borrowed an axe for his son, and they went into the forest to work. After they had worked until noon, the father said, "Now we'll rest a bit and eat our lunch. Then we'll be refreshed when we return to our work." The student took his lunch in his hand and said to his father that he wanted to go around and search for birds' nests. "Don't be foolish," the father said. "Why do you want to run around in the forest like that? Stay with me, otherwise you'll get tired and won't be able to do much work anymore." However, the son walked about in the forest, ate his bread, and looked for birds' nests. When he came to a large, dangerous oak tree, he searched all around. All of a sudden, he heard a voice coming from the roots of the tree. It was crying out in quite a muffled tone, "Let me out! Let me out!" He listened for it and called, "Where are you?" Once again, the voice cried, "Let me out! Let me out!" "Yes, but I don't see anything," the student said. "Where are you?" "I'm over here in the roots of the oak tree." So the student began to search and found a glass bottle in the hollow of the tree, and the voice was coming from there. When he held the bottle against the light, he could see a shape in it like a frog. And the shape cried out, "Pull out the cork." I mean, what could go wrong? The student did this, and as he pulled out the cork, an enormous man came out and said, Do you know what reward you've earned by letting me out?" "No," the student said. "Well then, I'll tell you. I must Well then I'll tell you. I must break your neck for doing this." "Okay." "No, you can't do this to me," the student answered. "You should have told me sooner. Then I wouldn't have let you out. We've got to ask more people about this before you do anything." "Forget about more people. You must receive the reward you deserve." "Do you think people had pity for me when I was stuck in this bottle?" "No, they were punishing me. Do you know what my name is?" "No," the student replied, "I don't know." "I'm the all-powerful Mercurius." Mercurius, like Mercury. The genie said, "I've got to break your neck." "No, that's not the right way to go about things," the student said. "Take it easy. First, you must prove whether you can get back into the bottle." Otherwise, I won't believe that you ever came out of it. When I see that, I'll surrender to you and be your prisoner. Okay. The genie agreed and returned through the opening and down the neck of the bottle. As soon as he was inside, the student took the cork that he had pulled out and shoved it back into the top of the bottle. He had easily duped the genie, and now the genie pleaded with the student to let him out and set him free. No, said the student, I can't free anyone who seeks to put an end to my life, and I'll never, ever let you out again. I'll give you as much money as you'll need for the rest of your life, the genie replied. You'd only deceive me like you did the first time, the student said. No, stated the genie, I won't do anything to you. The student was eventually persuaded by the genie, and he pulled the cork out again. I mean, he's so educated from school. Did I just talk about that earlier in this video? I said I'm a proud college dropout because we're talking about the clever girl and what it really means to be clever. Okay, well, this boy is educated. He's been to expensive schools. You think he'd be, if that works, you think he'd be smart enough not to pull the cork out again. But maybe it goes well. I mean, who knows? Sarcasm. All right. Pulled the cork out again. After the genie climbed out, he said, Now I'll reward you. Here's a special bandage made of plaster. If you rub this on a wound with one end, the wound will be healed. And if you rub it on steel or iron, the other end, it will be turned into silver. Okay, so going well so far. The student wanted to try out the bandage right away, and he made a tiny scratch on a tree and rubbed it with the bandage. All at once, it was healed. So the student thanked the genie, and the genie thanked the student for releasing him from the bottle, and they took leave of one another. The student returned to his father, who had resumed working, and scolded his son for staying away so long. Didn't I say that you'd do nothing? I'll make up for it, the student replied. Well, said the father, there's no way to make up for lost time. Father, what do you want me to do first? Chop down that tree. So the student took out his plaster and rubbed his axe with it. After he had struck the tree 2 times, the axe was worn down and the blade was no longer sharp because it was entirely made of silver. Look, father, said the son, what kind of axe did you give me? It's now completely bent. Didn't he know that it was going to turn it into silver? Oh, what have you done now? The father said, and had become even angrier. Now I'll have to pay for the axe. Your help will be my undoing. Don't be angry, father, said the son. I'll certainly pay for the axe. Yes, you numbskull. How are you going to pay for it? You have nothing but what I give you. Your head's full of hazy ideas from studying. You don't understand the first thing about using an axe. The son wanted to persuade his father to call it a day, but the father told him to go away. However, the student wouldn't leave him in peace and said he wouldn't go home until his father came with him. The son took the axe with him. And the father, who was an old man, couldn't see that it had become silver. When they reached home, the father said, Now see if you can sell the axe somewhere. So the student took the axe, brought it to a goldsmith in the city, and asked him how much he'd pay for it. As soon as the goldsmith saw the axe, he said that he wasn't rich enough to pay for it, and he didn't have enough money on hand. Then the student told him to give him what he had, and he would wait until the goldsmith could borrow more money to pay for it. So the goldsmith gave him 300 gold coins, and the student borrowed another 100. Then the student went home with the money. to his father and said, I've got money, so now go to the neighbor and ask him how much he wants for the axe. I already know, the father said. He wants a gold coin and a penny. Well, then, the student replied, give him 2 gold coins and 12 pennies. That's more than double what he wants, and it's enough. When the student gave his father 100 gold coins and declared that he'd never want for money, he told him the entire story of what had happened. Meanwhile, the student took the other 300 gold coins and went to finish his studies. Afterward, he could heal all kinds of wounds and become the most famous doctor in the world. So that is pro-education. But coming from the Grimm brothers, probably would be. Funnily enough, they abandoned their studies to concentrate on reviving this oral tradition of these stories. I actually think that this story should be rewritten to where the son messes it all up because he just, you know what I mean? It's just school knowledge. Whereas the father is a carpenter, understands reality. That's actually where I thought the story was going. I can usually predict this stuff. But I think if the Grimm brothers saw where we are today and saw what studying is today, they would not approve. Because back then, the very intelligent people went to school. The types that should be learning philosophy, literature, all of those things, history, the science that doesn't conflict with creation. Now it's like, everybody go and major in sociology, psychology. And you barely have to study. You get like the answers to the tests before you take them. Just memorize. But back then, studying meant something. It probably very much included theology. There's no way it didn't. There's no way that theology wasn't an integral part of a lot of people's studies. But interesting. 2 stories in a row about clever children helping their parents, but also making huge mistakes too. Letting that genie out of the bottle the second time, that could have backfired so much. And the clever daughter meddling. But this is what fathers have to deal with, right? This is the difficult thing. One of the many difficult things about being a father is you have to lead them, but you also have to allow them to grow up. And that's not something that mothers are terrific at. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. I'm not insulting us. I'm not. That's our job. That's our baby. He'll always be our baby. Everything he does is going to be wonderful. But dad balances that out. Dad will be like, you're being a ding dong. I know your mother loves you. I know, you can go to her and she's going to think everything's great, and dad's going to let you know what reality is. In my opinion, mom is going to teach you a lot in your first few years. We don't raise children like that anymore. Just like, oh, it's 3 years old. Don't require anything. Like, no, you can start teaching them please and thank you. They can know about God and Jesus. They can say their little prayers. They can, learn to be helpful, learn to be responsible, celebrate those things, learn. When I was younger, there was no running in the house, for example. It seems like a very small thing. Don't run in the house. Don't scream in the house. And you start teaching them young like that. The father needs to have peace, for one thing. So does the mother. And children just being raised feral doesn't work like that. And so if you allow running and screaming and all that stuff in your home, is it any wonder when you go to Walmart or a restaurant that you have kids running around and screaming? If they're not expected to do it at home, to behave at home, they're definitely not going to do it out or in school or anything like that. Fathers help bring that spirit of discipline to the home. Fathers help bring the requirements and set boundaries. And that's a very good thing. That allows mother to work within that and be loving and, be encouraging. It's a balance. Unfortunately, we do not celebrate fathers enough. And when we say, not me, not you, when they say down with the patriarchy, that means down with fathers. It starts with the Holy Father and it trickles down to the human fathers. It seeks to destroy their headship and it seeks to accuse. It basically accuses men of wanting to control and oppress women. Just because somebody's in charge doesn't mean that they are a tyrant. But we've lumped those two things together, especially when it's a man. There can be benevolent leaders, mostly before democracy and all this political baloney, right, with how we operate now. Over the course of history, there have been many, many, many male benevolent leaders, especially in the West. Otherwise, you know why I know that? We wouldn't have this society. We wouldn't. So we need to celebrate this day way more. We need to celebrate it as just the existence of fathers. The existence and the role of fathers all needs to be celebrated. And we need to stop emasculating them and stop tearing them down. It's tearing our society apart. This is the reason. Down with the patriarchy is down with society. So we need to celebrate them. And even if you haven't had children, I think being a man and being a father, I think that role, even if you haven't had your own children, you still are a man and you still help lead society and carry society. And that's fatherly. So celebrate yourself today, even though I know that's not your nature. I celebrate you. And I'm glad we have fed our souls today. I would like to dedicate today's fairy tales to my own father. I love him. I've always loved him. He did a very good job teaching me not to hate men, to understand that they love deeply and they hurt deeply, that they're human beings. And they're highly sacrificial, especially to their families. I'm not saying that's always a good thing, but my father certainly did that, and he did his best. So he read to me quite a bit. He read to me quite a bit when I was younger. So that's where my love for this comes from, is from him. So happy Father's Day, Dad, if you're watching. And happy Father's Day to all of you. Make sure you keep feeding your souls. Make sure you protect your peace. I love you guys. And I'll see you on the next one.